Today we're going to work with these water-soluble pencils. So we touched on that a little bit on Monday with when we were testing out all of our different pencils. So I have a black Stabilo, I have a white Stabilo, and I have a woody, which is basically just a really, really chunky Stabilo pencil. I believe they're made for kids and artists. So artists are totally kids at heart. And I think they're perfect for us. Now they come in all different colors. Traditionally, I use very rarely the white, but mostly the blacks. So I have those. Sometimes I will use a gold or a silver or something like that, which you can also get in both of these sizes. So I also have a watercolor brush. Being that these are water-soluble mediums, you can use your watercolor brushes and it won't damage them even if you don't rinse them out really well. You just put them in the water and they will reactivate. They're a little bit harder than normal when you do clean them really well. So if you like your brushes to remain, you know, in perfect condition, then definitely make sure that you do that. A little soap and water probably would work. I'm going to start out in my little journal, my test journal, and as an exploration kind of a process here. So I'm gonna set because my page is white, I'm gonna set my white Stabilo aside for a moment. And I just wanna start out, first of all, with my thin one. And I'm just gonna create a little flower. So this is like a poppy, looking straight at it. Not gonna get too creative with this. Again, this is just that practice session. You can make some really beautiful pages with it though, and then use it for other purposes. So just from what I know of creating poppy drawings before, I can just simply wing it. And it is kind of how I like to do things. Using a reference is probably always a good idea, but especially when I'm just practicing, I don't worry really too terribly much about that. And I just implement all of those things that I know for creating movement. I love to have these gaps in between the flowers. So this is a gap, and this is a gap, and this is a gap. So it just creates that added dimension of there is something going on behind, and it brings that flower to the forefront of your picture. So poppies are kind of shaped sort of in this way. All different ways that you can process those. I just start with that original little, where it grows out of that center. I let it hide behind one of the other petals, and create kind of this wobbly little outline, and then put in some of those fold-ins like we were talking about on Monday as well. So you don't lose sight of where your background is showing through. You know, you can do those right away. And don't make them all look the same. Kind of create some different types of, here, let's do that. Make that a behind. Okay, create some different edges so that they all look different. You don't want them to look all exactly the same. Although it may be pretty, it just doesn't look natural. Okay, so I have that. I'm going to just give that idea of a center line in and I'm doing this very lightly. Now this is a little on the darker side, but most of my drawing I'm doing it lightly, because when you start adding water to the Stabilo, it's really going to make it flow, or it's going to get really dark and it can obliterate your picture pretty quickly. So now this is a completely drawn flower. Can see that it is really dark. This pencil, I'm barely touching the water to these areas, but I'm gonna start with that background. And once it dries, you're probably good. You don't have to worry about it unless you touch it again with your wet medium. So this is definitely something where you can be very fluid with how you're drawing with these pencils, but then you want to be a little bit more cautious when you start using your water. So I'm gonna do that now. And you can see that you get some really, you can wash it off too. If you need to freshen up your brush and you want it to be considerably lighter, than just rinse your brush and wipe it off. Now, if wet touches wet, just like in watercolors, it is going to move a little bit. But I think this is really pretty. I'm going to soften up a few of these edges so it gives it that really, really washy look. And maybe drag the tip of my brush just along that curvy edge. Okay, so in here you're going to have some shadows because of how it's curving in. If you recall, we talked about that a little bit on Monday. And you can even take that tip and create some additional lines that go into your leaf. So you know when you look, or a petal, you know when you look at petals, even if they're not really, really evident, there are lines that travel through them, especially leaves. And you don't always see them unless you look really, really close. But I think they're really beautiful, those lines. So then here, again, we talked about, we did a little bit of line work in this area on Monday, but all you have to do is take a little bit of clean water on a brush and just move that in, and it's going to kind of create that shadowy area. Kind of like how that looks. So I'm gonna follow that a little bit. Just to kind of give it an impression of having some texture, something else going on there that you might not necessarily see until you look closer. So I do suggest that you get some flowers, look really closely at those flowers. I plan to go to Trader Joe's today. Love their flowers, and I will probably get some that will make it into some of our videos. Kind of excited about that. Love to buy myself flowers, so this is definitely a really good excuse to do that. So you might end up coming outside of really where you wanted to go, but I think that that's okay. I think that if you just roll with it and see what happens, you might find that you really love how a particular thing ended up looking. It might have been what you planned. You might have planned something completely different, but it's those happenstances that that can really create some beautiful things. So I'm just using the tip of my brush like I was using the mechanical pencil on Monday. And just creating some lines. So I'm doing them all different so that, remember, this is my practice journal. I'm doing them all differently so that I can see which ones do I like. Do I like how all of these little wavy lines look? Would I rather it look more like a hosta where they're big and obliterated with just a little bit of light shining on it? You know, how you end up liking a process is going to be really individual. It's going to be, it's okay if you don't like how something I'm doing looks and you would prefer to do it a different way. That's completely okay. If everybody liked the same thing, I think that it would be a very, very boring creative world because we would just have a bunch of Van Goghs without any Rembrandts, or we would have a bunch of Rembrandts without any Matisse, or you know, all kinds of examples there about you know, artists who kind of did their own thing. They bucked the system and created what felt good to them. So you might not like Andy Warhol or Picasso. I'm not a huge Picasso fan. I think it's very interesting, and I think it's an interesting process to do things like he did them, but they're not really my, I know that they're not what I enjoy doing or what I enjoy looking at. And that's going to be different for everyone. So that's part of this process, is just playing, seeing what if I do this? What if I create an entire picture with just one pencil? What kind of things can I get out of that pencil? What kind of processes can I make them do? So it's taking your supplies, it's taking your implements and pushing them to the very limits of what they're capable of. And I think that that's kind of cool to limit your supplies. And I think it creates a really, really beautiful picture. So I have something emerging here that I think is incredible. The only thing that I really need to do, and I'm being really careful on this because I don't want to obliterate them, is I'm just taking the very tip of my brush really lightly and just going around the edges of those little circles. Now, some of them are filling in, some of them are not, and I think that's absolutely perfect. So look how beautiful that is. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Okay, so we got to explore a little bit with that. Now, let's see what this, what the woody does. Now, if you're creating the same thing, let's do the same thing so that we can see what the differences are going to be between the two. So I'm going to need to make my dots much larger because, or my center little pistils or stamens, or not exactly sure what those, I wrote it down so that I would remember, but you know, that part of it apparently just doesn't matter that much to me. I just want to see the beauty that comes from it after. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm going to fill the majority of the page with this. I'm gonna come out from behind one of those. Okay, so it's gonna go right off the end of the page. Forget to put those in. I'm not gonna fill these inner areas in. I think that the woody is going to do a fair amount of that all on its own. All right, but I am gonna put in a few of these little, not too many of them though. I think maybe here, where they come in, where they create these little indentations is kind of a perfect spot to put them. So it just feels natural. And maybe one right there. Okay, and one more. So I did get a little carried away. That's okay. All right, so going about it the same way. I'm gonna bring my water a little bit closer here. I think I'm gonna start with these center ones. And it puts down more of that water-soluble pigment than the smaller ones do. So it's going to be a much more suggestive in the sense that it's very expressive, and we probably won't end up with a whole lot of solid lines or you know, anything truly detailed. I think it's going to really be very, very washy-washy. All right, so it has a little bit more of a childlike look to it, which I think is really beautiful. I don't know if you've ever seen some of the pieces that I collaged or created from paintings that my 3.5-year-old grandson did. Oh my gosh, you guys, so much fun. He was having so much fun with the watercolors, and I absolutely loved taking that and adding some things to it to really bring that piece alive. So it was a collaboration of grandmother and grandson, and we created some really beautiful things together. Again, I'm just being really, really gentle, trying to utilize the pigment that is already down on the paper instead of adding more to it. But every time you touch inside of that area, you're going to renew that pigment on your brush. So very cool, very cool. I really like it. And it's a great opportunity to really create almost a negative painting. So I'm spending most of my time here kind of getting a lot of that pigment on the outside of the flower, which is really going to make it stand out. We're going to be doing a little bit more with negative drawing, negative images in the section with the compressed charcoal, which I believe is coming up next week. And speaking of next week, this is a reminder. I believe I might not have mentioned it. I will not be here live on Monday because I will be out of town, but there will be a video, and the live session will be on Wednesday. Okay, don't have to get too careful or too specific about how careful you are. I like just the washiness of it, but you can see that even when I've tried to be really careful, that I'm still getting a very, very childlike sense here. That's interesting. Okay, so again, I'm just trying out some different ideas of what I can do here. This definitely has more like a poster child kind of a look to it, which is great if you like that look. I think it's absolutely fine. You know, maybe you don't want to put any lines at all and you just simply want to use the pigment to create those shadows and those suggestions of something more going on there. Do you like that? All right. So I like that. I think that's very nice. Now, definitely a huge difference in how they look. Even though they're both very washy, this has a much chunkier look to it, just like the pencil's name. I'm drawn a little bit more to this one than I am to this one, but this one can definitely have some other things layered over the top of it that could create a really incredible piece in your journal. So when you do a page, like we're doing these test pages here, but when you do a page, that doesn't have to be the end of it. You don't have to say, oh, this didn't work out, or it's, you know, I don't know what else to do with it. Somewhere along the line, you're going to discover something that you want to put in there. Possibly you'll paint something else on top of it, or maybe you'll put some color behind it and just have that as that monochrome type of thing there. So these are our 2 Stabilo test patches for today. And what I would like to do now is maybe come onto this page and create something. I'm thinking since I already have some color on this page, this was from that backgrounds session that we did where we talked about having some backgrounds already prepared in your journals so that you can use them as jumping off points. So really quickly, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw those poppies again. And I'm going to make some really simple, quick ones. And I'm not even going to fill them all in right at this point. I just simply want to show you how to go about filling up your pages and using some of these backgrounds. Okay. So go like that. So that's not exactly the poppy that we did. I added some other ones to it because I got stopped by this page over here and I thought it looked a little bit odd. But I'm going to create maybe a poppy that only, so like this would be the top, all of the petals are coming down. So kind of looking at it from the side, I suppose you could say. Just like that. Just gonna put a few of these in just to give it a suggestion of movement. Maybe that's a really deep one because it got folded over by that page over there. Okay, just like that. I'm gonna leave this one just like this, maybe put some more of these up here. And a few more in the back. And then how about maybe at least one more, and I'm thinking like maybe here. I want to do another one like that, but looking up towards the center. I'm going to leave the center open. And this isn't really what this particular course is about, but when you talk about art journaling, and that can encompass a lot of different things, drawing and painting and collaging. But it's about writing your heart, about speaking what is in there. And I think that we can create some really beautiful pages and use them at a later time to write down those journal things, or put in quotes that inspire us, or that kind of thing, where we can use these pages at a future date. It's not just a one and done and I never look at it again. It can be an ever evolving type of a personal expression. Okay, so a few more here, and like this. And I'm pretty much going to go about these, painting them in just like the ones that I did in my practice thing. But I wanted to show you how you can create this new journal page with some of the things that you practiced and adding some other things in. So one of the reasons why I wanted to show you on this particular page is we can use this white Stabilo on these other areas. So let's see. Zoom out a little bit there. And hopefully you can see this really well, but we can create that same type of a picture. Now it's going to show up much darker on something that is darker than this. So let's do that. Well, let's finish this one really quickly. And I'm not bothering to go into the white areas because that isn't going to show anyway. But if it makes you more comfortable to finish the thing, definitely do that. And I am going to get a different brush though, because there might be some black pigment left in that one. So I have a clean brush, and you probably can't see this terribly well, but I think that you're going to be able to see it a little bit better on this orange here, this deeper. And I'm going to, just in case, I'm not sure, there might be something on the end of my pencil there. So I just wanted to kind of scrape that away a little bit. Okay, so you can see over here, it made lots of color. Okay, so I'm not even going to do this flower. I'm gonna fill this orange space, or some of it anyway, maybe not all of it, with just circles that are all touching each other. And then move that around a little bit, see what it looks like. And I'm pressing pretty hard with the white because I really want to lay down some of this pigment so that when I hit it with the water, it's going to move. and, you know, give me the effect that I'm looking for. So don't like that big line of things. So I'm going to vary it a little bit. There we go. Better. Okay. And gonna get a watercolor brush. That last one that I was using is actually a oil painting brush, and it doesn't soak up a whole lot of water. So your watercolor brushes are definitely going to soak and hold more water. Although this one doesn't have a great tip on it. Now, the difference here is gonna be that I did this with watercolors. So watercolors, when you re-wet them, are going to reanimate. So the orange is actually, or red if you want to call, I believe it was a cadmium red. It just looks kind of orange. It's actually mixing with the white, which is okay. But do understand that if you put it on top of something that is also water soluble, they will combine. So if you're just looking for a pure white, you could do it on maybe some black paper, or you can put it over the top of collaged pieces, maybe that have scrapbook paper in them, or magazine paper, something like that. And you can also draw right on the top of dried acrylic paint. So if you have a picture that you've created in acrylics, you can use the Stabilo on top of that to create some really lovely effects. Okay, so it shows up a little bit more on this, but like I said, it actually is combining with that orange that's underneath. Now I can show you on, let's see, on here. So this is one of those pictures that I did with my grandson, and you can see the swipes through here. Those are actually water soluble pencils, and I have lost my Stabilo. Here we go. But I just wanted to show you what you can do like on an acrylic, and this is a much darker piece here. So love that. I think that's really, really cool. You don't even need to move it around if you don't want to. Moving around the white is not my favorite because it doesn't have quite the same effect as the black does when you do that. But it's okay. So I just want to show you. And again, these are watercolors, so because that's what he was doing, watercolors. He had so much fun with them. And he was giving every color its turn. So funny. Okay, and then you can even use what you get from that in some of your white space. And I think that's really cool. Just adds another layer of texture. to your artwork. And this can be an ongoing thing. So this was done in 2 different sessions, and now this is the 3rd session. So very pretty. A great benefit of having pages that are already done. I could create a little pocket to put over here and even write a note, do that journaling, that those heartfelt words on a slip of paper, and tuck it into a really cool pocket that I make. And I imagine a word right up in here. So maybe a word that encompasses everything that you wrote on that paper. So another really great idea for creating in your big journals as well as the little journals. But I love this. So invite over a niece or a nephew, or maybe your kids or your grandkids, and give them some watercolor paints and some little papers and see what they do. They just have a great time, and make sure that you snag them before they go too far on that page, and then make them into works of art. Just love it. Okay, that's it for today. I will finish this up here. I may use some of the woody to create a little bit more background. I'll see when I get these done whether I feel it needs some darkness around it to make those flowers stand out. But this is a done page. I hope you love these water-soluble pencils as much as I do. There are also water-soluble crayons, which we may actually touch on in the section where we do colored pencils and pastels. We may add in these water-soluble crayons, because they are also tons and tons and tons of fun. Very expressive, love them. But I wanted to keep this first 2 weeks just getting comfortable with just sketching and drawing and being loose, and setting up pages and kind of getting an idea for composition and things like that, and learning how to take maybe some mistakes or some things that you didn't particularly like and use them as a jumping off point where you can create something further, and you can start asking those questions. What if I do this? What if I add this? What if I find this beautiful instead of ugly? I think that is the name of the game. And I hope if you learn nothing else from this entire process, that you learn that your own unique expression of creativity is very beautiful, and you need to see it for what it was meant to be. And it will be an ever-changing thing. You will grow as you engage in the process, and as long as you're not telling yourself you can't, you absolutely can. So if you don't already have a Stabilo, it's, they might be like $1.50 for a pencil, $2 maybe. I suggest that you get one, because they are an incredible, incredible thing to use in your artwork, in your collage, in your journals. Just love them. Have a great day.